Negotiation is probably where most money is either won or lost in B2B sales. Give away a 10% discount too early and you've just cost your company thousands of dollars. Push back too hard and you risk losing the deal altogether. So here's the question. Can AI actually coach me through a sales negotiation better than an experienced account executive would? So today I'm giving the exact same negotiation scenario to ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and Gemini, and we're going to find out which AI I'd actually trust before getting on a real customer call. If you've watched the previous videos in this series, you'll know I'm testing AI across every stages of the B2B sales cycle. So in the first episode, I compared follow-up emails. In the second episode, I uploaded one of my own discovery calls to 4 different AI models and asked them to coach me. Claude came out on top. No surprises there. But today we're moving into something even more difficult: negotiation. So every AI gets the exact same prompt, no second chances, same customer, same scenario. Let's see what I actually trust. Okay, so first up is ChatGPT, and this is a prompt that I use. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but the customer has said, your competitor is 20% cheaper. If you can match this price, we'll sign this week. Okay, ChatGPT actually gave me some pretty solid negotiation advice here. The first thing I like was that it told me not to treat the 20% as a discount request immediately. Instead, it suggested I find out what they're actually comparing. And I completely agree with that. Because your competitor is 20% cheaper doesn't necessarily mean the price is the problem. Maybe they're comparing a different package, different contract terms, or maybe they're just negotiating. The second thing I really like was this question. If you were able to resolve the commercial gap, are you prepared to move forward this week? That's a great question because it isolates the objection. If they say yes, now I know the price really is the blocker. If they say no, well, don't give them a discount yet because you've just discovered there are other problems. And this is where I think ChatGPT gets something really important right. Don't negotiate against yourself. If a customer asks for 20% off and you immediately give them 20% off, you just negotiated with yourself. Instead, if you're going to give something, you should get something in return. Longer contracts, faster signatures, annual payment, whatever makes sense. Ask them to meet you halfway. But here's where I think ChatGPT was a little bit too textbook for me. It gave me about 15 different questions I could ask. And that's a great reference document, but I'm not going into a real sales call with a checklist of about 15 negotiation questions. I want the conversation to feel natural. So for me, the principle is more important than the script itself. Diagnose first, isolate the objection, establish value, and then negotiate. So I'm giving ChatGPT an 8.5 out of 10. Really strong framework. The advice is commercially sensible, but I think it gives me more information than I actually need to take into a live conversation. Let's see if Claude can do any better. Okay, Claude took a slightly different approach here, and there's one thing I really liked. It told me not to react to the 20% discount request. Instead, it said to go back to the part of the customer statement that matters the most, where they said, we love your platform. And I really like that because before I start negotiating the price, I want to remind the customer why they were looking to go with us in the first place. And this is something I use in my own sales conversation all the time. Rather than immediately asking a really direct question like, why is price an issue? I'll use a label, something that says, it sounds like budget approval might be the real constraint here, and then pause. It's much more conversational. You're not interrogating the customer, you're giving them something to react to. And that's where I think Claude's advice is particularly stronger. The second thing I really like was the question, what happens if this doesn't get signed this week? Because the customer just told me, if you match the price, we'll sign this week. And as a salesperson, it's very easy to hear that kind of thing. You're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I have to get this deal done before the end of the week. But hang on, that's their deadline, not yours. So I want to understand whether the urgency is actually real or not. And finally, Claude reinforced something I strongly agree with. Don't just give a discount, trade. If I'm going to move on price, I want something in return. Maybe it's a longer contract, maybe it's annual upfront payment, maybe it's a commitment to sign this week. The guiding principle is give something, get something, not just give. But there's one thing I think Claude did a little bit too much here. It gives me a lot of negotiation questions. And they're good questions, but I'm not going into a customer call with a checklist of 10 questions. That's going to make the conversation feel like an interrogation. For me, the real value here is the principle behind the question. Label the concern, understand the urgency, isolate the real objection. And if you need to move on price, trade rather than give. Overall, I'll give Claude a 9.5 out of 10. And honestly, this is probably the kind of answer I'd actually want before going into a difficult negotiation. Can AI help you negotiate? Absolutely. It's fantastic for preparing before an important call, thinking through different strategies, and spotting the blind spots. But negotiation itself is a human skill. The reading tone, building trust, knowing when to pause. Those are things AI cannot fully replicate. Used the right way, it can absolutely make you a better salesperson. We have now tested AI on follow up emails, discovery coaching, and negotiation. In the next episode, we're tackling one of the hardest moments in any sales conversation: objection handling. I'll give ChatGPT and Claude the same real customer objections, and we'll find out which one gives advice I would actually use in a live sales call. I'll see you all next week.